Hello everyone, this is a part 2 to my little series of developing, so go watch my first video, otherwise you probably won't know what's going on. After I made my first multiplayer video game and played it a few times with my friends, I realized it gets really boring after you play it for a few times. In this video, we are going to be trying to fix that. Before we begin, we must ask ourselves a question. Why does the game get stale? In my case, it's quite simple. Nothing actually changes from your first run to your 10th run. One thing we can do is add more maps. Maybe place monsters and capsules in different places. Well, that would fix the problem for the first maybe 20 minutes or maybe an hour, depending on how many maps you have made. It still will be just an hour of gameplay, and after that, it gets boring again.
But hold on. Procedural generation exists.
No.
I already tried, and it didn't work. Anyway, what do we do about it? That's right, redesigned the whole game around the cool new VR headset I got my hands on. Armed with it, and my knowledge of making multiplayer, I thought, why not to let the players control the monsters too? After 5 minutes of thinking, I settled on an idea that I would have 4 players that are going to be in VR and will be trying to survive for an X amount of time, against a PC player that would be trying to kill them. The VR players, that from now on I will be calling astronauts, will also be armed with guns to deter the monster from attacking them outright and to make it try and catch them alone. To create a challenge for the astronauts, the monster will be able to break things like electricity, forcing some players to hold a flashlight alongside or instead of their pistol. Now of course, all this might change depending on the results I will get from playtesting. Another problem I had encountered is the difficulty level and the tutorial. For example, when I showed my game to a friend, not only he practically speedrun it from the first attempt, he also managed to find loopholes around the monster's AI. But when I gave the game to my dad, he really struggled with trying to find out where he is on the map and not dying to the monsters. To fix the issues with trying to find out where the player is on the map, every single room must be distinct in one way or another. It can range from a different color palette for each room to simple signs above a door with the name of the room you're inside of, and an arrow pointing at the room that might be important to the player, just like Half-Life 1 did it. In the best case scenario, you shouldn't need a tutorial for your game by integrating the tutorial into gameplay itself. Instead of being a standalone, the best example of this being implemented would be Half-Life Alyx, where as soon as you get the gravity gloves, it's immediately explained to you how they work, not by a text message but by telling you how to use the mechanic via the environment around you, and letting you play around with it for a bit, letting you find out the details all on your own, without the game directly telling it to you. Of course, that is not always possible, especially with complex games like Squadorama. In games like that, a standalone tutorial would be the best option, as explaining all the mechanics through the gameplay would be almost impossible, at least in my opinion. So with that, I wanted to start making the game, but before that, I had to learn how to make games in VR, which actually turned out to be so much easier than I thought, but there was a small catch. It worked in single player, and to make it work in multiplayer, I had to write almost everything except for moving around arms and the character all by myself. So after I did it, it worked. And then, as soon as I invite a friend, so let me explain to you why writing multiplayer is actual hell. So in order for you to play over the network with a friend, you have to get a server, who let's just say is the host of the party. If you have a GigaChat server, he's able to host a ton of people. Then you have the client, which would be you, and in order for you to communicate to other people in the party, you first have to tell the server, and then the server tells it to everyone else. That alone can cause many problems, because I have to manually write in the code what are you going to tell the server, and if something's missing, well, you have a desync. Now, let's say someone arrived for the party late. Because he's late, the server has to tell him what happened when he was gone. If the server doesn't do that, there will be a desync too. And it's really hard to work with, because you have to communicate a lot of stuff. And just one little thing I forgot, and now the game is unplayable. Okay, let's say I wrote everything down. It works. Now I have to do it again for PC, because what you're doing in VR is entirely different for what you're doing in PC. Anyway, that would be it for this video. I hope you liked it, and I will be back in 2 or 3 months again. Goodbye!